I want to thank you for being here and being part of this very special evening. My name is Jeff Frick, and I'm the Vice President for Academic Affairs and Dean of the College. It's my privilege as part of my responsibility working with the talented people who shape our academic programs at Washington and Jefferson College to recognize your extraordinary achievements and sustained achievements. So we're here this evening to honor and celebrate those of you who have earned the distinction of being Alpha Scholars and Beta Scholars. Such distinction comes from your academic achievements during the 2020-2021 academic year, and for those of you who are juniors and seniors, also for your continuing achievements from past years. Let me remind all of us the criteria for these honors. At the end of each academic year, all students, except graduating seniors who have earned a cumulative grade point average of 3.85 or higher, are designated as Alpha Scholars. Those attaining a cumulative grade point average of 3.7 but less than 3.85 are designated as Beta Scholars. To achieve Alpha or Beta status, students must have taken a minimum of 7 graded courses at W&J during the year. Now that we have established the criteria you have all met, let's consider what it means to be an educated person in today's world. To do so, I would like to quote a true genius of the previous century, Albert Einstein. He stated, "The value of an education is not learning of many facts, but the training of the mind to think of something that cannot be learned from textbooks. The true signs of intelligence is not knowledge, but imagination." Today, you as students are swamped by information, and not just through textbooks. The world you live in is stimulating, if not overwhelming, and one that even a genius such as Einstein could probably not have anticipated. You are constantly bombarded by facts, statements couched as facts, and opinions that may or may not be based on facts at all. In this time, world truth is elusive, and words are not always to be trusted. So what we hope for you, Alpha and Beta Scholars, is that through the liberal arts education you're receiving at W&J, you are indeed developing that intelligence based on the ability to think critically and above all, on imagination. That you, our academic leaders, can imagine the future from a peaceful and prosperous world and make it happen. You have the ability and the drive, and we congratulate you this evening for your achievements, and we very much look forward to your future accomplishments. We are counting on you. As we begin the recognition of our scholars, it is now my pleasure to introduce Steve Malinak.
Good evening. My name is Steve Malinak, and I am an Associate Dean for Academic Affairs and a Professor of Chemistry. It is truly my pleasure to be able to recognize all of you on your academic achievements this evening. You are shining examples of the time, self-discipline, and devotion required to maintain the high academic standards held by W&J since its very beginning, and we honor you tonight. We wish to now recognize the senior Alpha Scholars. Alpha Scholars, please come forward to Dean Schiller when your name is called. If you are comfortable with a handshake, please extend your hand when receiving your award. Please hold your applause until the last senior Alpha Scholar is named. Nicholas L. Belofsky. Victoria N. Bolton. Thomas Einolf. Kylie N. Griswold. Cecilia A. McClay. Jacqueline E. Manina. Jesse J. Reardon. Vikram G. Singh. And Zoe B. Zentkovich. Please join me in congratulating the senior Alpha Scholars. Now we'll recognize the senior Beta Scholars. Beta Scholars, please come forward when your name is called. Devin A. Black, Vincent R. Catania, Abigail J. Chasulo, Preston J. Evans, Christine K. Horician, Maya D. Krishnasamy, Bianca L. Pate, Faith C. Remich, Star M. Rosnick, and Carly Stelter. Please join me in congratulating the senior Beta Scholars. It is now my pleasure to introduce you to Ariana Luciano, member of the W&J class of 2022. Ariana will perform Cristofori's Dream by David Lanz.
Thank you so much, Ariana. Good evening, everyone. My name is Dana Schiller, and I'm one of the Associate Deans for Academic Affairs and a professor of English. It's really my pleasure to be able to celebrate your impressive academic achievements this evening. We now wish to recognize the Junior Alpha Scholars. Alpha Scholars, please come forward to Dean McCracken when your name is called, and please hold your applause until the last Junior Alpha Scholar is named. Ian A. Anderson. Paul K. Collier. Morgan M. Dieseroth. Teresa A. DeVincentis. Madison A. Devine. Nagendra A. Danaconda. Aiden M. Dressler. Benjamin M. Fabian. Tyler L. Horvat. Rachel M. Carmen. Katerina Kreis. Isabella Manzari. Logan R. Marco. Bethany Mulderig. Sabrina E. Myers. Isabel N. Saloom. Evan R. Santee. Alec W. Shambach. Stephanie J. Sugarman. Ava M. Smith. Zivia A. Sutton. Holly L. Tresh. Hannah D. Yutzi. Please join me in congratulating the Junior Alpha Scholars. Now let us recognize the Junior Beta Scholars. Beta Scholars, please come forward when your name is called, and please hold your applause until the last Junior Beta Scholar is named. Nicholas C. Bartel. Zachary R. Beidel. Samantha A. Casil. Jillian G. Curtis. Rebecca L. Guyan. Anastasia M. Gayampa. Sydney Hurst. Ling Huang Tu Quat. Hunter X. Leach. Nora O'Brien. Madeline G. Panahanda. Neil N. Pundit. Angela S. Russo. Brianna M. Thompson. Please join me in congratulating the Junior Beta Scholars. I am now delighted to introduce to you Nicholas Bartel. Nicholas is a Junior Beta Scholar from Pittsburgh, triple majoring in political science, environmental studies, and Spanish. In conjunction with his studies, Nicholas serves as president of W&J's Student Voting Committee, president of Alpha Phi Omega, and a class of 2023 representative in the Student Government Association. Nicholas is also a member of the Washington Fellows, Sigma Delta Pi, the Green Club, the Sustainability Committee, and the Student Government Constitution Committee. Nicholas will be speaking on how all students have the power and the faculties to become change agents in the world around them.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for that gracious introduction, Dean Schiller. Before I begin, I kind of want to thank also all the other academic deans as well. Thank you so much. It's truly an honor and a privilege for me to speak in front of all of you this evening. Your accomplishments, which have led you to become Alpha and Beta Scholars, have not just happened in a single day. Every decision you've made up until now has influenced not only who you have become, but who you're going to be. From joining a club on campus where you might have met some of your closest friends, to perhaps pulling an all-nighter for that one exam, or choosing to take on that demanding internship or job opportunity that opened up a plethora of new opportunities. One of the defining moments for me happened relatively early on, and that was through joining the Boy Scouts, which led me to kind of realize the importance of the outdoors. And that eventually led me to major in environmental studies here at W&J. However, as I went along the path to reach my Eagle Scout rank, I was taught to make sure to leave wherever you were better than when you found it. Now today, there are a lot of places in our world that we all can make a little better than we found it. Our generation's been left with many problems, from climate change and conflicts forcing people to flee their homes, to people being under attack for who they are and what they believe. It's imperative that we do not yield in the face of all of these challenges. And though it may seem grim, I have hope. We have new tools at our disposal that have never been able to be used before in this same capacity. Keep in mind, just 30 years ago, the internet was not publicly accessible. When we were born, Twitter and Facebook did not exist. Today, we can work together in ways we've never done before. We can record, publish, and have several million people view something within just a few minutes. We can talk with friends and family around the world, face to face, for free. With this expansion on how we can communicate, our generation has been able to share our lives and our stories with a greater ease. We can share injustice seen in our communities and ensure that even the most powerful amongst us can be held accountable by a simple device that sits neatly in our pockets. From inspiring movements like the school strike for climate started by Greta Thunberg, to March for Our Lives after the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School shooting, and the Black Lives Matter and the Stop Asian Hate movements that are currently taking place all around the world today. There is no doubt that our generation has been trying to make the world a better place than we were born into. And even with all the great work we've done, these issues still exist. Posting a black square on your Instagram for Black Lives Matter has not stopped the bullets from killing an unarmed black teen. Reposting an infographic about Yemen has not stopped the famine there. Nor has a single tweet solved climate change. Alone, these things will not do much to solve the issue at hand. Nor is it possible for us to dedicate time to all of these topics and have still that level of impact. So it leaves us with a problem. How can we make the world a better place than we found it when there are just too many issues for us to tackle reasonably? Well, to make a change in the future, we must first look to the past. In our first semester here on campus, we learned about the importance of a liberal arts education in our first year seminar classes. We learned that we must have a wide breadth of knowledge on many topics, but also be very knowledgeable about only a select few that speak to us. When we find our niche, that's when the real change starts. When you find that one thing that you can just do for hours and hours and time slips away. It's when you can go on and on to your friends about this until they tell you, please stop talking about this. That's when you know you have found your thing. If you've not found that thing yet, that's perfectly all right. Now is the perfect time to start diving deeper into finding that passion you just simply can't get enough of. College is one of the best places to explore that passion with people who share those interests, along with the support of the administration and the faculty here. We now have the opportunity to start making real change on our campus, on the local, national, and international stages. W&J continues to be a place where students can make our community better when we find something that just simply goes against our values. When Washington and Lee University asked us back in 1923 to bench Charles Pruner West, as per the tradition of northern states benching their black players whenever playing a southern school, West pushed back, saying, if you do that, I'm going to never play another game for W&J. In response, the athletic director at that time, Bob Murphy, told Washington and Lee, W&J does not play without Pruner West, and withdrew W&J from the game. Despite that being nearly a century ago, the spirit of making our community a more inclusive place for every single student continues to live on. We have shown repeatedly that anything that promotes discrimination against any student has no place on our campus. For example, last year, thanks to the Student Activities Board and the Student Government Association, we changed the name of Monty's to the Dub J Diner after its namesake of Monticello promoted the institution of slavery. Just this last year, when students noticed that a war memorial on campus contained both the names of Confederate and U.S. soldiers who were former students. They began working to find solutions to appropriately and respectfully honor our fallen heroes while removing those who sought to dissolve our union for the purpose of maintaining a blatantly racist institution. When we act to correct these wrongs, we ensure that we are who we say we are and that every element of our campus reflects those values. So how can you as an individual make a change in the world? Well, as the head of the Student Voting Coalition, it probably comes as no surprise when I say the biggest way you can change the world is to vote. Every time you vote to change the world. Gen Z and millennials make up the largest voting bloc in the country. However, we vote at some of the lowest rates of any generation group. However, thanks to all of you who are registered and turned out to vote in the last election, we actually broke the record of having the highest youth voter turnout rate in the history of the United States. Yet voting isn't something we do just every 4 years. This year, the very judges that will be impacting cases affecting your rights are up for you to vote on. Well, National Voter Registration Day was last week. There is still time to register to vote or request your absentee or mail-in ballots. However, voting's not the only way you can change the world. You can also create change one person at a time. So try to do something every day that makes someone's day that much better. If you have the time, try to get to know someone on the staff here in the Commons or facilities. I know both Thomas and Mara in the Commons are both extremely kind and generous people. But if not for that first step taken, I would have never known that. The members of the W&J community, like Thomas and Mara, are often overlooked and underappreciated for how vital they are to our community. We all experienced just this past semester of how a simple worker shortage in G&Ts has impacted the very soul of how we function as a campus. Our dining and facility staff here on campus have risked their health and safety to make sure that we could be as safe and well-fed as possible when we come back to our school here, even during a pandemic. Our professors come here daily to share their knowledge with us at the risk of being exposed and spreading it to their families who may be too young or medically ineligible to receive the vaccine. So it is up to us to make that change in our lives, to make sure that we appreciate and cherish the good that they bring. I know the cliche saying of life is 10% of what happens to you and 90% of how you respond to it. Yet, I feel this saying is just simply too simple. In that 90%, there's honestly really just two main ways on whenever you encounter a problem or something very stressful. The first thing is, if you have the power to resolve something, then resolve it. And you can simply just move on after you've made that change. The second is, if you don't have that power, then there's nothing you can do about it. And so that doesn't necessarily mean you can never do anything about it. It's just right now, there's really no reason for you to worry. This belief helped me through my dad being diagnosed with cancer when I was in 8th grade and his eventual passing in 2019. While I couldn't control what the cancer did, the medical treatment, or what happened as a result, I did have the power to make sure that I found ways to spend time with him, to make sure that I had a way to take a break from it all with doing high school debate or working at the Carnegie Science Center, and to trust my friends to support me through that time. Unfortunately, many people around the world are feeling something similar to that same pain, loss, and grief from the effects of this past year. Our world has been underneath a magnifying glass and has exposed the world to the problems that were just simmering under the surface from the mainstream. From police brutality against people of color to the flaws within our medical system to the unjust treatment of our essential workers, these issues were brought up to the main stage this past year. These are all issues that our generation are working on the forefront, the front lines, to make sure that what we believe as a generation and as a country is reflected in how we act every single day. However, when we are fighting for what is right, we must not forget about taking care of ourselves. In first aid training, they teach us to survey the scene to make sure that it is safe before we go in. Because the only thing that is worse than one person needing help is two. So we need to make sure that we are both mentally and physically able to take something on before we commit to it. Because it's better to make a significant change in just a few areas than superficial and performative action in many. As we leave here today, I want to challenge each and every one of you to look inwards. How are you making the world a better place in a way that excites you? What have you done today that has made someone else's day that much better? Because it's when we think of becoming leaders through friendship and service to those around us that we can all change the world. Thank you so much for having me this evening, and good evening. Thank you.
Nicholas, thank you so much. That was really great, really inspiring. Greetings, everybody. My name is Mike McCracken, and I am an Associate Dean for Academic Affairs and a Professor of Physics. As is true of all of my colleagues, having the opportunity to work with all of you, both in and out of the classroom, continues to be one of the favorite things about my job and one of the greatest joys of my life. You are the ones who make doing that work easy and fun on a daily basis. None of you would be here tonight without having dedication, maturity, and a strong work ethic. I'm very proud of you all, and I'm so happy to see some very familiar faces in the crowd. Now we wish to recognize the sophomore Alpha Scholars. Alpha Scholars, please come forward to Dean Malinak when your name is called. And everyone else, let's please hold our applause until the last Alpha Scholar is called. Connor W. Adams. Rowan Angstadt. Ian M. Bachman. Natalie M. Black. Catherine M. Brown. Cassandra E. Carr. Joseph R. Figura. Abigail M. Fulham. McKenna T. Gallagher. Grayson M. Gibbons. Hannah M. Hausman. Matthias J. Hurst. Sophia M. Jenkins. Blake A. Kiefer. Denver Leslie. Mackenzie R. Rint. Madison O. Royer. Elizabeth K. Sprowls. Clay T. Yeager. and Gannon A. Ziviello. Please join me in congratulating our sophomore Alpha Scholars. Now let us recognize the sophomore Beta Scholars. Beta Scholars, please come forward when your name is called, and please hold your applause until the last sophomore Beta Scholar has been named. Lance Alfonso. Kayla B. Doherty. Madeline C. Dietrich. Emma A. Glossner. Kendall E. Hott. Abigail M. Hipkins. Dylan O. Joachim. Devin I. Lamb. Elena N. Popovich. Hayden R. Stein. Anna K. Straup. Beatrice P. Vasquez. And Sierra J. Walker. Please join me in congratulating the sophomore Beta Scholars.
Well, let me add my congratulations as well. You know, all of you are well on your way at this point to earning Latin honors, meaning graduating summa cum laude or magna cum laude at commencement. So that's an important distinction. I hope you'll continue to persevere academically and to make it a goal to commence from this college with the highest possible honors for the things that you've accomplished as scholars. Beyond that, though, I think it's also important to recognize that as I look out at this group, I see a lot of you that I know are involved in many other things on this campus. You are athletes, you are student leaders, you're involved in student organizations and volunteerism of all kinds. And it's not surprising because you are just the sort of students who are making sure that you're taking full advantage of the opportunities available to you at W&J and excelling at all the things that you do. And for that, I'm personally grateful that you've invested yourselves in your education and in the college in the way that you have. I also am well aware that this group in particular deserves an especially additionally maybe enthusiastic applause because you have really persevered academically under some pretty challenging circumstances. It hasn't been easy to excel in classes where we haven't been able to deliver things in our traditional W&J fashion, and yet you've done it. You've persevered, you've overcome those obstacles, and you've continued to keep your eye on the ball and excel very, very well indeed. You may be aware that this evening we've been recording this event so that members of your family can receive a link and actually view the event a little bit later on. So I just want to say a word to family members that may be watching today and just to thank you for all that you've done to support all the students here in the many ways that they are being successful in college. And would all of you just join me and let's express thanks to families, please. Well, Nick was right when he said that the purpose of an education is something more than just doing something for yourself. And the founders of our college understood very well that in those days, in the last days of the American Revolution, that education was going to be critically important to the success of a newly democratic republic, that we were going to be relying on educated people, not only to be professionals, doctors, lawyers, school teachers, ministers, other professions, to serve the communities that they lived in. That's a given with a good education, I would hope, but also that we would educate students at this college to be good citizens, to understand that we have a role in making the world a little bit better than we found it. And so I hope that that is your goal. I hope that you understand that a W&J education is preparing you to be something more, that your education isn't just a private good that you're receiving and making possible for yourself, but a public good that you're actually sharing with others and making the world a better place. So thank you for all that you're doing. I really encourage you to continue to persevere, make sure that you finish strong, and look to those of you that have come before you as good examples of what it means to be a W&J graduate who excels in all things and leaves the world a better place. Thank you, and good night. We're dismissed.